want to thank our moderators who've been helping out in the live chat. Our thanks to Callistia Lee, to Aussie Space Girl, to Rusty Shackelford for hanging out with us today. Broad thanks to our other mods in general for when they are able to help us out. Big thanks to our channel member community who helps power what we do year-round here at Spaceflight Now, and looking to add some new capabilities in the near future as well to cover even more of Florida's Space Coast. I want to thank our Spaceflight Now editor, Stephen Young, for running the technical operations of the broadcast. Most importantly, though, want to thank you for wherever you're watching from here in Florida or elsewhere around the world. Don't forget, if you haven't had your fill of launches this week, there's another one coming up from Vandenberg Space Force Base on Friday night from California perspective. That launch looking to lift off at, I believe, 11:02, if my memory serves. Let me double check. Oh, it looks like SpaceX actually is made an adjustment here. Liftoff is 10:14 p.m. Pacific for the Friday night launch of Starlink 9-10. So I'll be back with you for live coverage of that mission then, and also look for the next Falcon 9 rocket from here in Florida to lift off with the Starlink 6-69 mission. That'll be another southeast trajectory mission. And for that, we are currently also looking at a November 9th, or actually now it looks like that's going to be on the 10th. November 10th, which is coming up this Sunday afternoon. Got my calendar dates right? Yep. So Friday night into Saturday for here in Florida, or for the Vandenberg in California, and then back here in Florida, look for that on Sunday afternoon. And until we are with you again, my friends, remember, be good to yourselves, be good to others, and we will see you next time. And until then, bye-bye. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our live coverage of the latest mission from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. I'm Will Robinson Smith. Will be conducting our commentary for the duration of this coverage. We are broadcasting, as we always do, from the Spaceflight Now News Bureau here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. If you were with us on Sunday or yesterday for the first two launch attempts of this mission, Starlink 6-77, welcome back. If this is your first time seeing SpaceX attempt to launch this mission, welcome in. We hope you're all having a good week as we're nearing in on the weekend. We're just so very close. Weekend Eve, as some of my former colleagues like to call it. Currently T-minus 58 minutes, 23 seconds and counting to the planned launch of this Falcon 9 rocket, which has been at the pad since at least Sunday afternoon, or early Sunday, getting ready to launch 23 additional Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. We'll show you with a little more detail in just a little bit the flight path of this mission, but broadly speaking, it's heading in a southeasterly trajectory. So once it leaves the pad, it will fly southeast away from Florida's Space Coast with a booster landing just off the coast of the Bahamas. Much appreciated. Kicking us off on that footing is in the February time frame. In orbit maneuvering, they're built day. Now T-minus 4 minutes, 14 seconds and counting. Again, those additional noises you're hearing are just the pad level sounds. You can see the clamp arms beneath the payload fairings have opened up. You should see the transporter director starting to move a little bit away from the Falcon 9 rocket. As a bit of housekeeping, you'll notice the countdown clock in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, a little bit different than what you're seeing in the big box. Reason for that is our clock is in real time. What's coming in through the SpaceX feed is on a slight delay. So given that the majority of our cameras that we'll be using for the ascent part of the mission are with us here on the ground, we'll be making our call-outs in real time up to the point which we're relying on the SpaceX onboard cameras exclusively. We're now T-minus 3 minutes, 10 seconds and counting. We're awaiting the point at which SpaceX concludes liquid oxygen load on the Falcon 9's first stage. Should be hearing a call out for that shortly.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
Good call there from SpaceX. In about another minute, we should hear a similar call for the second stage. As we are awaiting the conclusion of fueling, want to thank just a few more folks for your support. Our thanks to Tim Scheidler for gifting 5 Spaceflight Now memberships. Really appreciate that, Tim. Thanks to the Peasant Knight and Aaron Jarvis for gifting a couple of super chats here. Really appreciate that from the two of you. Our thanks to Dr. Ed Kelly joining us to channel membership at the pad leader level.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
And with that call, the Falcon 9 is now fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. And what you're seeing here are the ground gas closeouts as they are clearing any remaining liquid oxygen from the feed lines. the strong back.
Ground gas closeouts.
There's that call that you just heard, referencing what I was just talking about. Want to quickly thank Patty Chichil for a $5 super chat, who says, thank you, Spaceflight Now and mods. Always great coverage and learning so much. Thank you, Patty. And with that, we are now just a minute away from flight, so we're going to keep our eyes firmly affixed to the rocket, and we'll return to any additional comments or super chats after launch.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Good call from SpaceX. We were just awaiting the launch director to give their go for launch now. We'll be ready to move ahead.
Go for launch.
And with that, SpaceX is now just about 20 seconds away from launching its Falcon 9 rocket. 15 seconds. And here we go. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine ignition and liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket on the Starlink 6-77 mission. The Falcon 9 has cleared the tower.
Chamber pressures. Power and telemetry nominal. Vehicle is supersonic. Max Q.
And a good flight of the Falcon 9 rocket so far, as you just heard, passing through Max Q, point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on this vehicle. Coming up on a few events in fairly rapid succession here. We'll see first stage main engine cutoff, or MECO, about T plus 2 minutes and 25 seconds. That'll be followed by stage separation, then the ignition of the Merlin vacuum engine,
AVAC chill started.
which you just heard them. They're now thermally conditioning that Merlin vacuum engine, preparation for its ignition. The payload fairings will be deployed just before the 3-minute mark. Here you see MECO. Stage separation. And ignition of that Merlin
MECO.
vacuum engine.
Stage separation confirmed. AVAC ignition.
You see those events happening on the SpaceX onboard cameras and hearing those call-outs from SpaceX. Awaiting fairing jettison here. It happened in real time. Should see that on the SpaceX cameras now.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And those Starlink satellites now exposed to the vacuum of space for the first time on this mission. A good view of one of those fairing halves as it falls back to Earth. Again, it'll be splashing down in the waters of the Atlantic Ocean under the support of parachutes. a little more than 3.5 minutes into this flight.
Both stages are on nominal trajectories.
Good call. A predicted flight so far for this Falcon 9 rocket, both upper and lower stages. The next launch milestone here will be just about at the 6-minute mark when the first stage entry burn begins. Again, that burn will last about 24 seconds in total. T plus 4 minutes, 39 seconds and counting. Those periodic puffs that you're seeing in between the hypersonic grid fins and the Falcon 9's first stage, those are the cold gas thrusters used to adjust the vehicle's attitude or positioning as it begins to angle ahead of the entry burn beginning. Falcon 9 first stage, of course, also passing its apogee and beginning to make its way back down towards the drone ship just to read the instructions. Still picking up in speed at this point, but once that entry burn begins, now less than 30 seconds, you'll see that speedometer number plummet quite quickly. Now 6 minutes into flight. Should see the start of that entry burn beginning momentarily.
Stage 1, entry burn startup.
Stage 1 FTS has safed.
There you hear the call. Let's see the start of that entry burn. Again, this lasting about 24 seconds in total.
Stage 1, entry burn shutdown.
With the conclusion of the entry burn,
Stage 1 trajectory nominal.
and a good call on a nominal trajectory,
Stage 2 FTS has safed.
we are now looking towards the start of the landing burn, which is coming up in less than a minute. Those calls you heard about the FTS being safed on the first and second stages, it's the flight termination system, a part of the safety profile for this and other rockets. No longer needed at this stage in flight.
Stage 1, transonic.
With the booster traveling below the speed of sound, assisted by both the initial entry burn, now by some atmospheric drag. We'll see the start of that landing burn here in less than 10 seconds.
Stage 1, landing burn.
Stage 2 terminal guidance.
Stage 1, landing leg deploy. Stage 1, landing confirmed.
And with that, for the third time, be 1085 safely down on the drone ship. SpaceX cutting off the feed there before we heard the call out for the nominal orbit insertion for the second stage. So we'll have to keep our eyes out for additional updates from SpaceX, but assuming that everything remains nominal with the upper stage of the Falcon 9 rocket, it will go into a coast phase till T plus 54 minutes. At that point, there will be a brief 2-second burn to circularize the orbit, and the Starlink satellites expected to be deployed at T plus 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 8 seconds after liftoff. And with a good landing of the first stage booster down on the